welcome to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. I am your host, Sam Randazzo. And I'm joined by my two slightly balmy co-hosts. To my right, it is the one and only Uncle Sam.
Hello.
Yeah, we haven't figured out how to get the air conditioning working on this side of the building yet, so it is a touch hot in here, especially under the lights. Very happy there's no hat today. You went with the normal specs instead of the shades.
I can't fucking see. It's the only way I can see. Get my readers on.
How's it going today? What day?
Good.
Monday. Fine Monday. How's your weekend?
It was good.
Anything?
Happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
See, you usually call it something else, but we don't need to go there.
Motherfuckers Day.
Motherfuckers Day. What'd you do yesterday, Sunday?
I cooked dinner for my wife. My kids cooked dinner for my wife.
What'd they make?
Actually, breakfast for my wife.
What was on the menu?
English muffins, some Polish ham I got from the meat store.
There you go.
It's almost like Canadian bacon, but it's the Polish style Canadian bacon.
Okay.
And Angelina made eggs. She made over easy eggs for everybody.
Really?
She's very good. She's a very good cook.
Whipping them up.
Oh yeah. So we ate that, and then for dinner we had grilled cilantro lemon chicken,
Ooh, fuck.
Ooh.
grilled carne asada,
Oh, fuck.
and
Rice and beans?
no, actually my wife made she has a special recipe, like a salad type thing, but it was really different. It had cheese in it, and
Really? Actually,
Yeah,
sounds,
it was
sounds
like,
delicious.
almost like a hollandaise sauce in it. It was
Wow.
pretty cool. Pretty cool.
To my left, it is our very own Mr. Zolo, Mike Palazzolo.
Bless.
And Zolo, how was your weekend? How are you doing on this fine Monday?
I injured my back.
Pickle incident?
Yeah, it was an odd pickle incident because before that I was smashing into walls left and right, first pickle of the year. And on this play in particular, I just I'd already hit the ball, and I went to push off of it just to get back into play faster, and I just felt everything lock up. I played through it another hour, and then yesterday was just a disaster. But my back, it woke up really bad today. It's gotten better throughout the day. So
You know what you need to do? Call Garrett and get some gummies.
I smoke enough. I already.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Ibuprofen, muscle relaxers. Sarah's
No,
got this
you gotta
thing
get the
that
gummies.
Stimulates.
Get the gummies.
Yeah, I got a pen. I got a vape pen.
There you go.
How was Mother's Day? Sunday, what'd you do?
See that Bruce?
Mother's
got the only
Day.
high on here.
So again, I played pickle. Saturday was big for us because it was my uncle's 70th birthday.
Okay.
He's April 12th, but he lives in California. He's in town, and we did a big group thing, which we don't always do. We do the group thing, but at someone's house. We went to the DAC on Saturday. All of us. We had a big long table. The only people we were missing were my cousin Charlie, who was at De La Salle's prom,
Shout out to Charlie.
and he's a fan of the show too, and his friends. We had a little De La Salle seniors contingent,
Really?
and then my nephew Frank, who's 3, and he's just very poorly, or 2. I don't know how old he is. He's very poorly behaved. And then I went out afterward with Sarah's coworkers. We went to this place called Spotlight. Have you heard of it?
I have not.
It's like it's so hard to explain because the crowd was so mixed. It's off of Mount Elliott in the middle of nowhere. In between Mac and Jefferson, somewhere in there. Like it's in the hood, but it was really it was popping, and it was a really like broad crowd, black, white, Palestinian flags.
Huh.
It was it was fun. It was fun. Then yesterday I was laid up most of the day, but I made dinner for my sister-in-law and my mom because my brother is a little unhealthy right now as well. So I made them dinner, and I made them. It's called Marry Me Chicken. I do it with thighs. You're supposed to do it with breasts, but it's thighs, and you make this like
thighs are better. It's got bones.
thighs are the best. It's the most superior cut of chicken is thighs.
I agree.
Long story, but it's like a creamy chicken. It's good. It's really good.
Very nice. Bruce, how's it going back there?
Pretty good.
You doing good today? Nice Monday?
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
Fantastic, actually.
Shout out to Bruce's brother, Christopher, also a member of the Tip softball squad.
Welcome
Big
home.
fan of the show. If you go back 2 years, there's an interview from him there, and he has made it home from New York, so shout out to Christopher.
Langford.
Shout out to Christopher. Welcome home.
How was your weekend? How was your Mother's Day?
Mother's Day was all right.
What'd you do for your
My
mom?
weekend was fantastic.
What'd you do for your mother?
Went to the Riverwalk downtown, and then went to Hopcat for dinner after.
Nice. Get some crack fries.
I did.
They don't call them crack fries anymore
No,
because
the
it's not
cosmic
PC.
fries.
Those are
Cosmic
good,
fries,
those
yes.
fries.
They
The
are
crack
good
fries.
fries.
Those
They got
are
some
really
good
good
Get
fries.
full of golf, so yeah.
You got a full round of golf in, eh?
Saturday in the rain, then the range Saturday night, Sunday morning, 8 o'clock,
Another tea time.
and 18.
Smoking some dope.
Wow. Shout out to Bruce. He's going to be on the tour here pretty soon. Anyways.
Wait, hold on. How was your weekend? No one ever asked you that.
My weekend was fantastic. I'm not gonna lie. Friday night we had a little Samarella for dinner. Saturday I made kebabs. I did some filet kebabs, some shrimp kebabs, delicious. Sunday I went flower shopping with my mother, and then I made some cheeseburgers on the new Blackstone.
Once in a while, I haven't done this in a while, and I should probably do it like this week. In fact, I got to do an airport run on Saturday. I'll do it on the way to the airport. I'll go and get the kebabs from
Dearborn Meat Market,
Dearborn Meat Market.
and then cook them at home.
Yeah, the chicken, the filet, the sojuk, and then the ribeye kebabs. And they're cheap, too.
That sojuk shit is pretty fucking good.
How much are they?
So it depends what you're getting. Fillets are most expensive. They're $4 a skewer.
Right.
The ribeye, though, are perfect. And I think they're like $2.50 a skewer. And the chicken's like $3 a skewer.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Got
and
salmon,
they're
too?
perfect. They're perfect. Pardon me?
Salmon, too?
I don't think they do any fish.
Place by my house does salmon with jerk sauce on it, and then there's one with a different sauce.
Really?
Yeah.
So I
It's
got.
expensive, though. It's like it's all $8 a skewer.
I went and got fillets from Fairway.
Yeah.
And I kebabbed them. I cubed
Okay.
and kebabbed them, and they came out fucking fantastic. I used Fairway steak salt, a little bit of garlic, olive oil, just kept it simple. They were fucking delicious on Saturday. That's enough tipped meats and tipped mothers for now, because we have some fucking breaking news. This is big. This isn't my Braxton Berrios breaking news call. This is some big, big breaking news. The Detroit Lions have extended quarterback Jared Goff 4 years, $212 million, $170 million guaranteed. First reactions from both of you. Let's go. Second highest paid quarterback in the league.
I want you to go first, Uncle Sam.
Sorry?
Instant reaction to Jared Goff's
I mean,
extension.
he deserved it. He's getting what he deserved. He deserved it just for what he did last year.
Second highest paid quarterback in the league.
He deserves it. At this point, by the time the season starts, he'll be the 5th highest paid quarterback in the league.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Zolo,
They got a good deal on it. 4
Any
years.
thoughts before I go?
I have some thoughts. I'm going to say it is a little bit steep. I
don't think so.
I didn't expect him to break that 50 million number. I didn't. And I thought that maybe he would give us a little bit of a friendly discount and come in around 49. I knew it was going to be, everybody was talking 45. I knew it was going to be north of 45. But I really didn't expect it to break 50 million. I don't know long run, when you get towards the end of this contract, how it's going to impact your future, because there's a lot of guys that are going to need to get paid. But I am extremely happy that at least for the next 2 years, he is taken care of and he will be here. But I do think it is a little bit steep. Not saying he's not worthy of it, but I think it could have been a little bit more team friendly.
First things first, bless you, Uncle Sam.
Sorry?
Bless you.
Thank you. Blessed.
So here's the deal. We'll approach it from all different angles. First things first, am I speaking for all of us except for Bruce, because obviously he wants Hendon Hooker to start? Am I speaking for all of us when I say we're a Jared Goff podcast?
Yes.
Whoa.
Jared Goff.
Calm down there.
Listen, at the end of last year, you said, we need to give Hendon
Oh
Hooker
my
a
God,
shot.
he was. I wanted to see.
You said it.
He was Goff hurt or something. Something was going on, and I said maybe we'll see Hendon Hooker, and I'm excited to see what he's worth. That's it. I didn't say he was going to take Goff's job.
Even the Patriots, when they went 16-0, had a stretch of bad games.
This
Every
is true.
team has a stretch of bad games in the NFL, no matter what. Even if they win them, it's a stretch of bad games. It just happens. You're never going to be perfect start to finish. So let's start with what you just said. You did the Jared Goff chant. We've never given an athlete in this town that kind of treatment. We don't. I mean, we
Barry
give
Sanders.
Yeah, different, but yes. We
Barry
still
Sanders
and we
had that
still
treatment from day one.
and we still give him that treatment too. By the way,
He still gets it.
we still give him
This
that
many
treatment.
years later.
And
30 years
Kelvin
later.
and Kelvin gets a standing ovation, of course, every time he shows up too. So what Jared Goff did last year alone, forget the 2 years before that where he was good and then really good. What he did last year alone is statue worthy. It's worthy of building a statue here. He did in 3 years what Stafford could never do. The best quarterback in the history of this franchise, Matthew Stafford, that people were making Detroit Rams shirts for. Okay? So that's number one. Number two, quarterbacks don't go on trees. And Brad Holmes has said from day one, it's easier to get worse at that position than it is to get better. Okay? The Lions have one of the most consistent and winningest quarterbacks since he's gotten in the league in 2016. Since he's come into the league, Jared Goff has been one of the most consistent quarterbacks in the NFL. Forget that his ball isn't pretty, because I think we all agree that his spiral is not pretty.
It's not.
Forget that the numbers are not perfect and they're not off the wall good every game. But he is a winner. He is a competitor. He has soul. He has fire to him, okay? He was meant to come in here and be a throw-in. A guy that they were talking about, are you going to take a quarterback at 6 when they drafted him in 2020 or when they traded for him in 2021? Are you going to draft another quarterback at whatever it was with the Rams or with the JMO pick last year?
Yep.
Are you going to draft or with Hutchinson at 2? They thought that was going to happen as well. Are you going to draft a quarterback last year? They were doing it every year at 6. Everyone said, "Are you going to draft a quarterback? Are you going to draft a quarterback?" Because Jared Goff was so good, they were able to make the team better because he was playing so well. And that had nothing to do with contract years or anything like that. It's because he's a fiery guy. And this entire thing that Brad Holmes and Sheila Ford, of course, Sheila Hamp, and Dan Campbell have built, this entire thing is based off of getting the right guys in here to build a culture, to build a real culture. The 3 guys that got the money these last couple weeks, Amon-Ra St. Brown, highest paid receiver in the league. Penei Sewell, same draft class, highest paid offensive lineman in league history. And now Jared Goff, second highest paid quarterback in the league. Those are guys that are the foundation of this culture. And forget, like, they don't have any, of course, you got your Sam Laportas and your Hutchinsons, and there's some studs, but they don't have any world-beating guys that are first-team all-pro guys, okay? And that includes Jared Goff, but they have culture guys and they have locker room guys, and that's directly tied to this team's success. Lastly, I just want to say what Uncle Sam said, piggybacking off of that. This is another market-setting contract by Brad Holmes. This is strategic. Yeah, it's a lot of money right now, but if you're arguing over $3 or $4 million a year annually, this is going to get fractured very soon. It's going to get further fractured as the year goes on. And as we keep watching football, the salary cap's going to keep going up. And so long as Goff is playing well, if he's playing the football that we've known him to play over the last couple years, which is slightly above average, this is a bargain deal. And you're going to win with this guy. He proved it this year. He literally put up one of the best quarterback seasons in franchise history. So I'm all for it. I've been waiting a long time. I'm so happy for him. He was supposed to be a throw-in. He was supposed to be a throw-in to offset salary, and you were getting 2 first-round picks out of it. Instead, he became the most lucrative piece in that deal, even above Matthew Stafford. We'll see what happens with the other 2 Rams picks, whatever. But he was a throw-in, and he turned that into being a scorn motherfucker that's one of the best quarterbacks in this league and a guy that this town loves. And he's the epitome of everything that gets done here, and I'm happy for him. He deserves it.
Over the last 2 years, Goff second in passing yards, tied for third in touchdowns, second in touchdown to interception ratio out of all starting quarterbacks in the league. And now he is second highest paid only to Joe Burrow. So
Not bad for a guy that got ran out of fucking town, huh?
that's not too bad for him. Absolutely not. We have another division to talk about today, and it is the first division in the NFC. We're going to talk about the NFC West and their off seasons. Where should we start? Should we start in Arizona? Because I know that is a team that all of us are starting to get pretty high on pretty quickly. Uncle Sam likes their new head coach. There are a lot of young guys on that team to like. Actually, we may or may not have an interview coming up with one of them here very shortly, but there are still some question marks in Arizona. So let's talk about their offseason and see what we think of it. To get the ball rolling, they traded wide receiver Rondale Moore to the Falcons in exchange for Desmond Ridder. Big fan of Desmond Ridder. I'd like to see him start in Arizona eventually. They also lost wide receiver Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown. Defensive lineman Leaky Fotu. Did I get that right? Leaky Fotu. Linebacker Zeke Turner. Offensive lineman DJ Humphries to round out their notable losses. Big-time signings. Offensive lineman Jonah Williams, cornerback Sean Murphy-Bunting, and defensive tackle Bilal Nichols. So far, how do we feel? Any big moves in there? I mean, obviously Hollywood Brown being kind of their number one last year. Kind of a little bit of a loss there. Rondale Moore was big for them at times. They signed DJ Dallas, wide receiver Chris Moore, defensive tackle Justin Jones, linebacker Mac Wilson, and punter Blake Gilkin.
You're not moving the needle yet.
Well, I mean, the needle don't get moved till their draft. Their free agency, really,
I mean,
to be honest with you, outside a couple of offensive linemen they got, is dog shit.
I was going to say,
I'm not trying
far,
to be an asshole here, but
so far, all the names that came in, Sean Murphy-Bunting is a decent corner, I would say. Bilal Nichols, decent defensive tackle.
he's a rotational guy.
Outside of that, nothing that they brought in moves the needle for me at all. Their losses, the wide receivers, good players, but very replaceable.
I thought I like what they did at receiver this offseason too. I thought they made some good moves. They brought in Zay Jones the other day, which it's not on this list because this was made before Friday's transaction. But I don't know. It doesn't move the needle at free agency. I just went on a rant about culture. Talk about culture. A lot of what they do is culture based. It's changing the tide with Jonathan Gannon. And I'm with Uncle Sam. I want to hear more about their draft because they had one of the better.
Yeah, they had one of the better drafts, I thought.
They had the 4th overall pick in the draft, and they took wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., Ohio State.
Arguably, probably the best player in the draft at that point.
You can make the case he was the best
Outside the
player
quarterbacks.
No, you can make the case he was more important than the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
You can make the case he was better than them. But you could also make that same case for any of the receivers. Look, I'm happy they didn't overthink Marvin Harrison.
I agree.
I'd like to know they have one of the most fun GMs to watch, Monty Ozenfort. I'd like to know what kind of calls they were fielding for pick 4 because I'm sure they were fielding calls. For him to not make a move, it couldn't have been that good, or it wouldn't have been good enough for him to go and get a receiver afterward, and they needed a receiver.
I don't think there was a chance they weren't taking him there. I think everything that you heard about them possibly trading out was smoking.
No, because he's active. He's an active guy. He traded out last year, and then he traded back in.
Yeah, but I think okay. I would have given Marvin Harrison to Justin Fields and let it see for a year. So I was high on Marvin Harrison.
Well, I mean, I think we all agree. I unless Mike didn't agree, I think they should have hung on to Fields.
Well,
I said that. I think if you could have gave this receiving core to Justin Fields that you're giving to this rookie, I think Justin Fields could have done very well.
In my opinion, you could give Marvin Harrison to anybody and it's going to look good.
Yeah, it's going to look
good.
I mean, come on.
They had a second first-round pick, and that was number 27. And they went with Darius Robinson, defensive lineman from Missouri.
Great player.
Solid pick.
We all love him.
He was arguably one of the best D linemen in this draft.
So the knocks on Robinson are he's a little bit slow. It's because of his size. I mean, he's what is he, Uncle Sam, 6'5" or something?
7 or some shit like that.
He's a big dude, but so it slows him down a little bit. But if you look at his tape, it's all that matters. It's a high motor. He's in on every play, and so long as they're going to keep building their D line, that's beneficial because he's going to grow when he doesn't have to take on more pressure and when he doesn't have to be the speedster and have the quick first step. And then we've talked about it ad nauseum at this point, but he plays everywhere on the D line. So he could start in the middle and then you could put him on the end during pass rushing down. Like he's going to be a mismatch problem in a division that's, loading up at offensive line.
And it already has a lot of young defensive linemen there as it is right now, as sits. And you're just adding another piece to that.
With their second round pick, number 43, they went with defensive back Max Melton from Rutgers.
Like him?
Yeah, I mean, Max
I liked
Melton,
him a lot.
in that like tier 2 or tier 3 of cornerbacks, he was one of the best ones. He's tall. I think he's 6'1", super fast. Saw a lot of good receivers this year in the Big Ten East at Penn State,
Harrison.
at Ohio State, at Michigan. He saw some good receivers at Michigan State last year. He's a good player, Max Melton. And he could start for them, too. I don't know if it's going to happen.
He is currently number 1 on the depth chart.
It's him and Murphy Bunting, probably, right?
Yep. In the third round, wow. Is this right? 4 third-round picks. With the first one, they went with Trey Benson, Florida State running back, with pick 66.
Top 3 running back in the draft for me. That's a good player.
And he goes into a pretty deep running back core with James Conner, and like they said, they signed DJ Dallas in the offseason.
That's huge. They're solidifying their run game.
Yeah.
You notice all the guys they got are power guys too. Benson kind of
Michael Carter's there now too.
He's that change of pace guy.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Tony Jones Jr. out of New Orleans. He's 6th on the running back depth chart right now.
Okay.
With pick number 71, Isaiah Adams, offensive lineman, Illinois.
Solid player.
Yeah, good player.
82, they went tight end. Tip Raymond, Illinois.
So he's more of a blocking tight end.
Tip.
Yeah.
What a name.
You know what he is? That kid for the Lions. Who's the guy that we like for the Lions?
Brock Wright.
He's Brock Wright.
Yeah. And you pair him, you put them both on the field. You put him with Trey McBride, who's actually a decent blocking tight end in his own. Even though Trey McBride's going to be the second pass catching
McBride is
option.
just receiving monster
Yeah.
right now.
Yep.
After Tip, with pick 90, Elijah Jones, DB, Boston College.
You could tell that the secondary was prioritized this offseason. They need a lot of work with
they-
their secondary for a while.
Their whole defense really. I mean, they really drafted some depth on their defense.
Well, they turned around, and 14 picks later went DeDorian Taylor Demerson, Texas Tech defensive back.
Good job.
It's just Jonathan Gannon. I don't know what kind of influence he had in his draft.
It's clear he had a big influence.
Obviously, he had a big influence.
It's clear
on
he
it.
had a big
They
influence.
lost a lot of tight games last year because their defense was unable to hold up, and I think they've addressed it in this draft.
And they were in a lot of games,
Yeah.
too. We'll get to
That's
that.
what I'm saying. They lost
later.
a lot of games because of the defense. They played their hearts out, but they just didn't have the talent.
And they had 2 fifth-rounders. With the first one, they went Xavier Thomas, Clemson defensive end. And with the second one, Christian Jones, Texas offensive lineman.
Christian Jones is actually rock solid. He's a big dude. Of course, on this, they've sank a lot of resources into their offensive line recently over the last 2 years between draft capital and free agency. So he's going to marinate a little bit, but he was a centerpiece on that line and at Texas, and I think it's going to be a big loss for Quinn Ewers this year. I think you're going to notice Quinn Ewers still should have a monster year. Like if I was a guy that bets, I would bet on him winning the Heisman right now. But he lost a lot of pieces, and there's a little lack of continuity. And Christian Jones is a big reason for that.
And then in the 6th and 7th, with 191, they went to Jean Palmer, UAB wide receiver. And in the 7th, with 226, Jaden Davis, Miami of Florida, defensive back. So
Speed kills.
1, 2, 3, 4 DBs out of this draft.
obviously they addressed what they figured was their weak spot from last year.
Yeah.
Not only in free agency, but in the draft.
So you guys both said it earlier, but you guys loved Arizona's draft.
Yeah.
I didn't care for their free agency. Them outside Bunting and Jonah Williams, it was kind of shitty. I mean, outside those two guys, but their draft, they hit a home run with their draft. I really like their draft.
They had a lot of capital to use, and they used
Yeah,
it
they
well.
had
That's
12
why I
picks.
think he was going to shop. I think that's why he would have taken the right deal for 4. But he didn't have a deal for 4 that would allow him to get a Dunze or Neighbors later, which is why. Plus, Marvin Harrison's really fucking good.
Really fun.
Yeah,
Really good.
Him and Kyler are going to be. That's a nice.
their
and
defense,
Trey
a nice
McBride.
duo.
their
man.
defense
Trey
was what-
McBride.
Do the other receivers real quick besides Zay Jones. Greg Dortch is on there, who's
Chris
excellent.
Moore.
They had, and now they added Zay Jones. I like Zay Jones. I've always been a Zay Jones guy. So it's Marvin Harrison, Michael Wilson,
Michael Wilson had big end of the year last
Yeah,
year.
he had a big end of the season.
Greg Dortch, Chris Moore, Zay Jones, Zach Pascal, Tejon Palmer, and then a bunch of guys I've never
That's
fucking heard
Well, you know what? You
Formidable
can say
receiver.
this. At least Kyler Murray has a real receiving core.
of.
now.
Yes.
Let me ask you guys a question, and I know I'm going to get shit on for this, though. Would you take that receiving core? Well, 3 questions. Would you take that receiving core over the Rams receiving core? Top to bottom, throw in Trey McBride in the conversation.
I don't know who's on them Rams yet. We got to
Well,
Call it Puka Nakua and call it
Puka Nakua, Cooper Cup, Demarcus Robinson, Tutu Atwell.
I thought he
Can't
was
forget
gone.
Tutu.
Tutu Atwell is still there.
I thought he was gone.
Jordan Whittington, who we'll talk about in a moment. Drake Stoops.
that's Bob Stoops' son, by the way.
I think I would take Arizona
I would too.
over a washed, not washed, but a aging Cooper Cup
Again,
and a second year Puka Nakua.
when you add in Trey McBride too,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true.
okay, would you take it over the Niners pass catchers, top to bottom?
No,
Well, it all depends on where some of them guys are going.
if they're
I
all
think
there
one of those guys is gone.
I do too.
And I also consider Debo more of a running back.
right now, with
Right now,
all
no.
of them there, I would take Frisco.
And then Seattle's.
Yes.
So technically, I think
Seattle's
Seattle's.
got a nice group.
Technically on paper they have the best 1 through 3,
Yeah,
but
1 through 3.
because they have the worst quarterback of the 4 throwing to them, that's what hurts that cause, in my opinion. Like I think DK has only taken Tyler Lockett's automatic. He's as consistent. The only out of all the receivers that were named, the only receivers more consistent than him are maybe Puka. We'll see. It's hard to do what he did last year. Yeah, then Tyler Lockett.
No, I don't think he's more consistent.
Agreed. I'm with you. People will argue
At
against
some
him.
point, Tyler Lockett's going to have to start regressing. At some point.
Guess what? Look what he's done with the shit that's been
I
dealt
know
to him.
that, but again,
I mean, outside Russell Wilson in his prime, he's been dealt a lot of dog shit there the last 5 years.
Yeah.
well, okay,
How long has he been gone? Russell Wilson, 3 years?
3 years.
Yeah.
let's talk about
He
the
was hurt
Rams.
His last year there, he didn't even play.
Let's talk about the Rams, then we'll move on to Seattle, and we can.
Aaron Donald, sayonara.
First things first, Aaron Donald did indeed retire. Losses off the rip, I don't know if they get much bigger than that. That is a massive loss for them.
He fucking sucked. He was overrated as shit.
They have moved to a new practice facility in Woodland Hills, California.
They built they call it the Walton Center, I think, if I remember correctly. And they built this massive, crazy
We're
development.
not really talking about John Walton, are we?
I think that's
That's his.
his niece, Alice
Alice
Walton.
Walton is married to.
Stan Kroenke.
Yeah. Defensive coordinator Raheem Morris left because he's in Atlanta now as head coach.
No big deal. Go ahead.
Listen, I disagree. I think that could be a bigger deal than the second loss because they reload with offensive coaches because it's just that Mike Shanahan coaching tree that's trickled down to Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay and all those guys. So I think they're going to be fine losing offensive coaches, which is the one Sam's going to name right now. I think Raheem Morris, coupled with losing Donald, could hurt them a little bit.
Raheem Morris brought passing game coordinator Zach Robinson with him to Atlanta to be his offensive coordinator.
Okay.
which means they promoted linebackers coach Chris Shula to be the new defensive coordinator.
There you go.
Just off of name alone, I know you like that move.
Anyway,
They
I'm not a Don Shula guy. Go ahead.
they signed guard Jonah Jackson to a 3-year, $51 million deal.
Spent a lot of money on them guards.
Then they extended Kevin Dotson, who's also a guard, to a 3-year, $48 million deal. So you have $99 million right there in
They had
guards.
something to protect Matt Stafford because he's your money guy.
Well, yeah,
Without him, you're
his
done.
neck is held together with
Without-
chewing
without
gum
him,
and rubber
you're done.
bands.
I can't wait for Aleem to shred Jonah Jackson when we play the Rams again.
That would be nice.
And Reader to shred this other fucking guy, Kevin Dotson.
They signed cornerback Tre'Davious White to a 1-year, $8.5 million.
Not bad.
That's a good deal for them. And a good landing spot for Tre'Davious.
It is a good. Yep.
Gotta be healthy. I mean,
As long, yes, I agree. If he can stay healthy, he was very productive. They also signed cornerback Darius Williams to a 3-year, $22.5 million deal, along with tight end Colby Parkinson to a 3-year, $22.5 million
I
deal.
don't even know who that is. And he got crazy money for
Well,
a tight end.
He was from the Chargers, I believe. Was he?
I thought he was actually. They brought him up.
Colby Parkinson?
I believe they drafted him and developed him. No, I'm not sure, but they signed Garoppolo. They signed.
No, he's with Seattle. Parkinson was with Seattle.
Oh,
They brought in Jimmy Garoppolo.
okay.
So that way, when Stafford's neck does inevitably give out, they have something better than, who was it last
You could have
year?
somebody to point the fucking.
Was it Brett Rippin?
Everyone.
Carson Wentz?
It was everyone.
Safety Carmen Curl is there now.
Okay.
And then they re-signed DeMarcus Robinson, linebacker Christian Rosenboom, wide receiver
He actually had a good year last year.
Rosenboom.
Yeah.
You're a Rosenboom guy, eh?
No, he was a solid player toward the end of the year. Guy was all over the field. He was making plays everywhere.
Really?
Yeah.
Wide receiver Tyler Johnson and linebacker Michael Hochit.
Another guy who turned it up at the end of
Hochit
last
did.
year.
That one was noticeable. He did turn it up at the end of last year. Some guys they lost. Brian Allen, center. Jordan Fuller, safety. Jonah Williams, and Carson Wentz.
Well, I mean,
Carson Wentz, a big loss.
I don't know. I don't think of much past that, to be honest with you.
So
free agency so far.
Yeah.
Not really moving the needle for too many.
No, it's not a bad free agency. I don't like where they spent their capital. I would have liked to have seen them focus more on the D line in terms of capital, but there weren't a lot of like top end.
Well, they
D-line
drafted
out
D
there.
line. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll get to that right now.
With their first round pick since Jared Goff, they took Jared Verse, defensive lineman out of Florida State, with pick number 19. Second defensive player to go off the board?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, fun fact: Jared Verse was the Rams' first round pick since Jared
Aaron
Goff in 2016.
Goff.
Oh,
Goff.
Since Goff, they hadn't picked
Interesting.
in the first round in 8 years or something like that.
yeah.
So, real quick, getting into Verse, who's a great player, by the way. He was preseason, he was a top 5 pick. He kind of fell off. He didn't fall off. He had a great year. But he just got jumped at his position by a couple guys who had monster years. I read a really good article in The Athletic from, I think her name's Jordan Rodriguez, she's the Rams beat writer for The Athletic. And she embedded with their scouts all year, especially through the draft process. And they had this focus, once they knew Aaron Donald was gone, they had this focus of how do we replace, you can't really replace that. You don't replace an Aaron Donald. But what you can do is you try and get a team of guys and you focus on communication and you focus on awareness and you focus on production to help fill the hole. And that's why they went with Braden Fisk in the second round, who was Verse's teammate at Florida State, because they have a
Lions
level
were
of
high on him too. Both of these players.
both of them. They were high on both of them. But because there's a level of communication and continuity because they played together in college, they think that's going to translate in the pros to where these guys are both going to be day one difference makers. And of course, you don't replace Aaron Donald, but you mitigate that a little bit when you have two rock solid players that play together in college, and you got them in picks, first and the second
19 and 39, yeah.
Yeah.
Both Florida State defensive linemen. And then with the third round, They took someone very near and dear to Zolo's heart. 83, running back Blake Corum, University of Michigan.
What I don't understand is I don't know. So Corum he's a compliment to Kieran Williams, but Kieran Williams evolved into an every down back last year, and Blake Corum was that. He's 1 through 3. He's not fast. He's certainly not as fast as Kieran Williams, but I don't know when and how they're going to use Corum properly.
Oh, you
if
gotta
Kieran
spell
Williams,
this guy. You're gonna get him fucking killed.
you're talking about Kieran Williams?
Yeah.
So, but Kieran
went down
Williams
last year.
he lines up wide though, and like he'll play some receiver for them.
Yeah.
So it's just if he's going to be on the field 4 downs, it gets tricky with Blake Corum.
With running backs anymore, it's a two-headed monster.
You need to.
You can't go just one guy. You need 2 solid players back there.
Do you think?
And I'll tell you what. You say what you want to say. Their draft right now, to me,
It's fantastic.
outstanding. I don't. Kareem Kitchens, the safety for Miami, is probably the best safety on the board.
He was picked
Period.
99.
Tall.
He's a
He's
monster.
a tall guy. This could be your eventual. I mean, I'm not gonna invoke the Jalen Ramsey card, but in terms of stature, that's how he is. I think he's 6'2", Cameron Kitchens, if I remember correctly.
The other guy that went for Miami was a 6'4".
They were both big.
He was that Cam Chancellor in the box safety.
Yeah. This we'll get to the rest of it, but yeah, this is a good draft. There's a couple picks in the 6th round that I like. Go ahead.
Well, in the 5th, Brennan Jackson, Washington State defensive end. And then in the 6th, they had 4. At 196, Tyler Davis, Clemson defensive tackle. 209, Joshua Carty, Stanford kicker.
It was interchangeable where Carty was compared to Will Reichard from Alabama. They all went in like the same. The 4 kickers went in like the same range.
Yeah.
Mevis, Carty, Reichard, and who's the last one? I'm missing one right now. I'm missing a kicker.
I'm not up on my kickers.
But they all went in the same range, and they're all very good players. Carty he's the most consistent of the kickers in this draft.
Listen, you're
and they need
picking in the
consistency
6th and
at kicker.
7th rounds. If you take a kicker, that's not a bad thing.
no,
Not a
I
bad
agree.
thing at
You
all.
could have made the case a lot of people had like 4th and 5th round grades on him, and we had Jake Moody go in the 2nd round, so we know how the league feels about kickers.
Right.
That's great value at a good position, so good for them.
213, Jordan Whittington, Texas wide receiver. And then 4 picks later at 217, Bo Limmer,
I
Arkansas
wouldn't be
offensive
shocked.
line.
I would not be shocked. Didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
Sorry.
you're good. No worries.
Wouldn't be shocked if Limmer ends up starting this year. He could start day 1.
Yeah.
He could be Brian Allen's replacement, and that could be your 3rd interior lineman changed over this year. He's a really good player.
Right.
And he was a top 5 true center in this draft. Probably at the back end of that top 5, but he is a true center, and he could play really well. Could end up being a good get for them.
Yeah.
And then at 254, KT Livingston, Kansas State offensive lineman, baby.
Once again, there's just depth at their O line.
Not a bad place to stack some depth, if he makes the team. Okay, overall, we have 2 free agencies to compare and 2 drafts. I would say right now that Los Angeles had a better free agency period than Arizona,
Yes.
and the drafts are actually very comparable.
I think
They're
the
compatible,
I think the
very
Cardinals draft is better just because of what they did. I like their top end talent. I like what they did at the top half of the draft. They had 5 picks in the top 100, and they nailed all 5 picks. So that's why I prefer.
That's tough to argue. Actually, the Cardinals had 7 picks in the top 100.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
7. And yeah, there's not one of them that we didn't really like.
No.
Moving on. Let's go up to Seattle. You can gum Tyler Lockett some more now if you would like. But anyways, they hired a new head coach because Uncle Sam's former favorite coach in the league, friend of the show, Pete Carroll, was officially brought behind the barn and shot like Old Yeller.
That's what they needed to do. Take them all back and put a slug in them.
His name is Mike McDonald, the former Ravens and Michigan defensive coordinator. How do we feel about that signing?
I thought this was a top 3 head coaching hire. I think the Commanders fucked up by letting Mike McDonald leave the state because he's that good. His system, what he's done defensively in Baltimore last year, I mean, their defense, you can't deny what they did last year. And then, of course, at Michigan a couple years ago. And that's what they needed, in my opinion. They needed a defensive-minded head coach to come in. Eventually, they're going to need a quarterback, but in the meantime, they needed a defensive-minded head coach to come in and rebuild the wheel, and I think they got that. Not quite Legion of Boom. It's not going to be that, but
Not yet.
they got some good pieces. They got
a little early.
They got a lot of pieces I like defensively, especially in the secondary.
I like the Mike McDonald hiring personally. I think it
I
was
like the Ryan Grubb hiring that he did.
offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb from Washington. It's the new offensive
Michael
coordinator.
Penix, we'll see what he could do with
Geno Smith
Geno Smith,
or Carson Wentz.
Carson Wentz, or something.
And they hired defensive coordinator Aiden Dirty. Did I get that right?
Yeah, he's pretty heralded. He's the one that kind of helped raise Micah Parsons over the last couple of years. He's British, by the way. He's a British guy, and he looks and sounds the part, too.
Didn't like the Beatles, and I don't like British people.
They re-signed Leonard Williams, defensive tackle, 3 years, $64.5 million, as well as tight end Noah Fant, 2 years, $21 million.
Big.
Big.
Two solid guys.
Big, you say.
Two solid guys. Two solid guys.
You know, where's we'll get to him, I'm sure.
The only thing that bothers me is this next signing.
They re-signed Artie Burns, cornerback.
He's,
Dog shit.
well,
Were you going to put a dog
he
shit?
was out of the
label on him?
U, so I'll give him that much. I like Artie Burns because he went to the U, but beyond that, he hasn't really done much in the NFL.
He's just depth, though. He's not.
Correct.
He's not upsetting.
I
you know.
I like Darrell Taylor.
Yes, they also re-signed linebacker Darrell Taylor.
Darrell Taylor, yeah, just a good player.
Some other signings. Offensive tackle George Fant. Linebacker Jerome Baker. Linebacker Terrell Dodson. Defensive tackle Jonathan Hankins. Tight end Pharaoh Brown. Wide receiver Laviska Shenault.
That's your guy.
That's my guy right there.
Rashawn Jenkins.
Almost won a Heisman.
Shenault at times has shown that he could be fucking awesome. Safety Rashawn Jenkins, guard Langdon Tomlinson, and center Nick Harris.
I like Rashawn Jenkins. I like Jonathan Hankins. I like Jerome Baker. I thought they've been pretty solid, really, with their free agency stuff.
This one here, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I'm listening.
This one here is extremely interesting to me. They got quarterback Sam Howell from the Commanders.
It's weird because there's a chance that could we not like Sam Howell better than Geno Smith eventually?
I think
I
there's
think so.
no question that I would like Sam Howell better than Geno Smith.
What was a better situation? Sam Howell in Seattle with more weapons but a rookie head coach, or Sam Howell in Washington last year with a team that had no identity offensively? Like, you can't deny that pass catching weapons are more.
A million times better. This situation for Sam Howell to succeed is far and wide better than Washington.
I think that's why they acquired him.
I think Sam Howell is another one that probably got the plug pulled on him a little bit too early. And I think that realistically, right now, he's the quarterback of the future for Seattle.
I will say this, out of all this stuff that we're going to talk about here, I thought they lost a lot on this team.
Well, they lost
in free agency. I thought they lost Bobby Wagner. I mean, how do you replace Bobby Wagner?
Well,
They've done it before.
They tried to once.
They like,
Yeah, you've seen what happened when they tried that. Come on.
I think the next one's a bigger one. They lost tight end Will Dissly.
Oh, God.
They also lost safety Quandre Diggs, safety
That's
Jamal
big.
Adams,
That's big.
defensive tackle Brian Moan,
Eh,
linebacker fullback Nick Bellor,
eh,
guard Damian Lewis,
eh.
running back DJ Dallas,
Okay.
quarterback Drew Lock.
Not Drew Lock. Not Devin Bush.
You know something?
Evan Brown.
I know we haven't gotten to
The Evan Brown thing was big.
we haven't gotten to the Giants yet, but Drew Lock did sign with the New York Giants.
Okay.
And don't be shocked if he starts games this year. Linebacker Devin Bush, and like you said, offensive lineman Evan Brown.
Yep. That's a lot of starters to lose.
Well,
hold on.
Jamal Adams
And
thing
one
was
off season.
bullshit.
I would discredit the safeties.
So would I.
Okay, so Bobby Wagner.
You don't think Quandre
Bobby
Diggs is
Wagner, I
good?
guess, is a big loss. But he's been effective and he's a tackle machine. But like, you can replace off-ball linebackers. That's just my opinion. You might disagree. Even if he was the best, they're still replaceable. Disley, I don't know. Diggs was going to leave or retire no matter what. He had one of his worst, he probably had his worst year as a pro last year. And then Jamal Adams has had all the issues with the teams for 3 years. He hasn't been effective in 3 or 4 years. He hasn't even done anything.
Love took his spot.
Brian Monet hasn't done much. Nick Bellore was the guy who injured, that's the guy who injured what's-his-face from the Lions, by the way, on kickoff. He blew him up.
Who?
James Houston. Nick Bellore was the one that broke his leg.
Ah.
Damian Lewis, kind of. Maybe. I'm not giving them DJ Dallas, Drew Lock, or Devin Bush. And I know you think you see the name Evan Brown, and you're like, that's a big loss. But also, he's old, and he's been banged up, too. They needed to get younger at a lot of positions. They needed some wholesale changes. I wouldn't look at them this year and be like, this is the year. I think this is a little bit more of a transition year. And if they figure quarterback out, they could be ready to compete within a year or two with this staff.
To the draft. They had the 16th overall pick, and they took Byron Murphy, defensive lineman out of Texas.
Okay. What? He was one of the best interior guys in this draft.
He was the best interior guy in the draft.
Well, I would say it's between him and the kid from Illinois, Newton.
Newton, yeah.
Yeah.
Newton fell.
He had a foot injury. That's why he fell.
Yeah.
They did not
He
have
had surgery, too.
They did not have a second-round pick, but at pick number 81 in the third round, they took Christian Haynes, offensive lineman from Connecticut.
One of the best guards in the draft.
Solid
Good player.
2 fourth-round picks at 118, Tyrese Knight, the UTEP linebacker.
He's supposed to be fast as shit. Tackling machine.
And then they went around and got Michigan tight end A.J. Barner.
He can catch passes, but he's a blocking tight end.
Blocking.
He's a blocking tight end.
They need that.
Then with the 5th-round pick, Nehemiah Pritchett, Auburn corner.
This is another guy the Lions loved. The Lions did a lot of homework on him. Combine, they brought him in for a top 30 visit. I think they had another shot at him as well. Good player, and that's a good spot to learn. There's a lot of depth there between Tariq Woolen and Witherspoon, so he'll sit in a good spot. And who knows, you may got a nickel quarterback right there.
And with their 3 6th-round picks, 179, Satoa Lumia, Utah offensive lineman. 192, DJ James, Auburn corner. And 207, Michael Jearley, Finley tight end. Anything on those ones?
Depth.
It's just going to be
Depth.
depth players. These are depth players.
All right, so far, probably the because the other two were so good, this is probably the worst draft.
Yeah, by far.
I think even though the losses might not be that huge, they probably have the most losses.
They're going to have a hard time. I believe they're going to have a hard time. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year.
Are we seeing? Is this the beginnings of a retooling? I don't know if I'd call it a rebuild.
I would say you're in a rebuild without Pete Carroll there.
Remember, they were in the playoffs 2 years ago, and they were close to the playoffs last year. Of course, there's a lot of attrition. I love their staff. I trust the thing that this team needed to get right is they needed to get things right defensively. And I trust the staff with the pieces that they have in the secondary to get this thing right defensively, because I think that's where it starts. I don't think it's going to happen this year, and I still, who knows? You have me thinking about the Sam Howell thing, but
Yeah, there we go.
They need some help at quarterback before this could do any true damage.
Sam Howell, baby.
Especially in that division. You're going to need a quarterback. You can win in that division with a good quarterback.
Go Sam Howell.
Sam Howell had a bad rep. He was probably one of the most sacked quarterbacks in the league last year.
I think he was the most sacked quarterback in the league last year, yes. Should we move on to the division champions?
Yeah.
The San Francisco 49ers brought in Brendan Staley, somebody we all love here as an assistant head coach.
Wow.
We had a timer set on how quickly he'd get fired last year.
Okay.
Thoughts on Staley? Every time I think of him now, I think of that one meme that came out of him in the doggy style position, flexing his back.
Is that that little kid from San Francisco in here? What's his?
No, Dark Lumen
No,
hasn't joined us.
Not reported.
Huh?
Yet.
I just threw the bat signal out.
Oh,
Yeah.
he's not in the thing here.
No.
Tell him Brandon Staley could single-handedly destroy his football team.
Who's more detrimental, Brandon Staley, Arthur Smith, or Matt Patricia?
Matt Patricia. Everything he touches turns to
Matt
shit.
Patricia is the biggest
Okay.
cow dung in the league.
Who would you rather have less? Arthur Smith, Brendan Staley.
Arthur Smith.
Arthur Smith.
Wow. They promoted Nick Sorensen to defensive coordinator and fired Steve Wilkes.
Smartest thing they did.
I don't know. I think Steve Wilkes had a really bad rap.
I'm not a Steve Wilkes guy.
But the thing is, the defense was humming at one point, and they did as well as you could do against Patrick Mahomes through 5 quarters. They had him for 5 quarters, 5 full quarters. So I thought he did really well in that Super Bowl for the most part. They had the hiccups earlier in the year, and it's just because they were just trading for all these guys, and they couldn't find a way to make them cohesive.
Yeah.
And I think that was the problem.
Yeah.
I think Steve Wilkes was the fall guy. And in a hypothetical, personally, I think the Niners are going to be good again this year. In a hypothetical where the Niners are not good next year, that's where you start seeing Shanahan finally take some heat. And in the meantime,
I
Steve
think
Wilkes is the ball guy.
he needs to just let the fucking offense go. He needs to hire a fucking play caller and
Well,
take a step back.
they've rehired Mick Lombardi and promoted him to passing game coordinator.
Yeah, we'll see if that works out.
The losses. Defensive end Randy Gregory. Defensive end Chase Young. Off the rip. Quarterback Sam Darnold. Defensive tackle Javon Kinlaw. Defensive tackle Eric Armstead. Cornerback Isaiah Oliver. Defensive tackle Sebastian Joseph Day. Defensive end Kellen Farrell. And wide receiver Ray McLeod.
Yeah, Ray.
Now, I will say this. Their losses are going to outweigh their signings. There's no
way they can't.
There's no way but that you got a guy like Joseph Day, Ken Law, Armstead. You don't replace those guys overnight.
So
I'm not even talking about Chase Young or anybody else because that's dog shit anyway. But you know what I'm saying? The interior defense was very, very underachieving, I thought. And I think this is why you've seen this move here.
I think you need a lot of pieces that are currently there, like your Bozas, to play really well. That's what their season's going to boil down to recoup some of these losses. Because you can't tell me, like, okay, Randy Gregory and Chase Young didn't do shit after they acquired them, but Kinlaw and Armstead were big rotational pieces for them. And even Sebastian Joseph Day, you heard his name from time to time. And he could be a big loss for them in the long term.
I think so too.
You need they're banking, and it adds pressure, but they're banking on the guys that are already there. They're banking on those guys to play really well. I don't like. Go ahead, finish the draft class.
The signings: defensive end Leonard Floyd, 2 years, $24 million, and linebacker Devondre Campbell. They also signed defensive end Yeter, I don't know, Gross Matos, and defensive tackle Jordan Elliott.
This doesn't move me at all because I think you went from a higher level of talent and you just kind of fucking regressed with these two signings.
Can you do their depth chart? Can you do both sides of the ball, one deep? You don't have to go too deep.
Absolutely.
I'm just curious where some of these pieces fit in for them.
Yeah, Malik Collins. I mean,
Okay,
come on.
let's see. So, defensively, Gross Matos is behind Nick Bosa.
Yeah, so he doesn't start. That's what I thought.
They acquired Malik Collins from Houston in exchange for a 7th. He is a starter. Leonard Floyd is a starter.
Okay. Leonard Floyd's on the outside.
Jordan Elliott is behind Javon Hargrave.
Okay. Hargrave is a starter.
Kevin Givens, who they re-signed, is behind Malik Collins.
Okay.
And as far as everybody else goes,
That's kind of it. Their rotation is kind of weak.
They need a lot of guys to play well. They need Werner and Greenlaw to
Devondre
play
Campbell
well.
is a starter.
They're gonna have to step it up.
Didn't Greenlaw blow his Achilles out in the Super Bowl?
He ain't even gonna play.
So
this year.
if you see him, it'll probably be way later in the year. You're right. If you see him,
this year.
if you see him, it won't be way later in the year. And I personally think their secondary is suspect. It's at its best when their front seven is ticking, and there's a lot of attrition in their front seven.
well, as far as the secondary goes, they have a rookie starting. Their second round pick is listed as
Renardo Green.
Green.
And he's a good player, by the way.
Yeah.
Renardo Green's actually very good.
Well, let's jump into the draft then. With the first round pick, 31, Ricky Pearsall, wide receiver out of Florida.
So I thought they could have went a lot of ways. I had a feeling it would be receiver or tackle. I thought they could have gone after Trent's replacement. Because Trent Williams is what? He's old.
He's got to be 34.
Not the point. You know, we're wasting time. We don't have to talk about that. I'll say
35.
I'll say this much. I do love Ricky Pearsall. If I were a draft grader, I would have been very high on him. He's super athletic. He's a piece of shit in the middle of the field. He's a good blocking receiver. I think this is a preemptive strike because I think they're going to move on from one of these receivers. Ayuk is one that makes sense.
And there's been a lot of turmoil with both Debo and Ayuk.
I think they systematically see these guys ain't stupid.
Well, the rumor is Ayuk requested
they
a
see
trade.
what's going on here.
They're just trying to build a team of white guys, which pissed me off on Ricky Pearsall because he's really good. I love him. I wanted the Lions. I was hoping he would be there in the back half. I didn't think he'd be a first rounder, but they passed on Worthy. No, Worthy went the pick before, right? They didn't. I'm wrong about that. They didn't pass on Worthy, but they passed on Leggett. They passed on A.D. Mitchell. They passed on Keon Coleman, who's better than all the names I just gave, in my opinion. And they went with Pearsall, and I just think that was. I don't know. He's big. I mean, he's 6'2", and he's got a pretty good vertical for a white guy. But I don't
forget they got Juwan Jennings.
Yeah, third and Jennings.
Yeah.
Third and Jennings.
So I don't know. It's just tricky. Gun to my head, like if I have to pick, I love
his skill set.
It's a great pick.
His skill set is like Ayuk.
Well, then Ayuk
he might be better than Ayuk.
A bigger Ayuk.
He might be better than Ayuk, but I think Ayuk's taller though. I thought Ayuk was taller.
Yeah.
You have to fact check me.
I don't think he is.
Well, I'm checking that. Second round pick, 64, Renardo Green, who we just discussed, Florida State DB.
Solid.
Yeah, good player. Good player.
And it looks like he's going to start off the rip.
I believe that.
With pick number 86 in the third round, Dominic Pooney, Kansas offensive line.
If he doesn't start this year, he'll start next year.
He's pretty nasty. He might crack this lineup this year.
Another guy. Kansas had some guys on both ends of the ball in the middle rounds that did a lot of damage. And this is one of them. So if he, like Uncle Sam said, if not this year, next year.
For the record, he is number 1 on the depth chart.
Yeah.
I figured that.
They had 3 fourth-round picks. With the first one, they went Malik Mustafa, Wake Forest DB.
Good player, but he's small.
Speaking of height, Pearsall is 1 inch taller than Ayuk.
Right. So Ayuk's 6'1", Pearsall's 6'2", or something like that.
Kind of the
6
same
foot,
dude.
6'1".
Kind of the same dude.
With 129, they went Isaac Guerrero, Louisville running back.
Role player.
Yeah, yeah.
You love what the Shanahan offense does with running backs, though.
You watch this kid. This kid will fucking have some monster game
for sure.
Especially if McCaffrey goes down, this kid will have a monster game.
With the last pick they had in the fourth round, 135, Jacob Cowing, Arizona wide receiver.
Role player, dude. These are situational guys now.
6th round, Jarrett Kingston, USC offensive lineman, and with pick 251, Tatum Bethune, Florida State linebacker.
Special teams, baby. Special teams.
So,
Team special plays, special players. Tuesday.
So what do you think?
yeah, this
What do you
is the
think
big
of this
question.
draft?
Okay.
Drafts for me, Arizona's the winner.
Okay.
Drafts, I think you kind of got to go Arizona,
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah.
I'm going to go the Niners at 3.
You are over Seattle.
I'm not. I'll go Seattle over the Niners.
Really?
Yeah, I thought Seattle actually, to be honest with you, had better players than the Niners.
I think, okay, if we were going to categorize it, I think Arizona and the Rams are in a top tier, and then I think Seattle and the 49ers are in a second tier. As far as off-season goes, San Francisco probably lost the most. The Rams.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there one that stands out as the top and one that stands out as the bottom as far as off-seasons go? Right? Like
I like the Rams off season right now.
you do.
Yeah. I just think they did a good job of bringing pieces in
They had a lot of picks.
strengthening
10
the weak
picks.
points on their team. I think they did
I
a better
think-
job than the other teams.
Personally, I think Arizona had the best offseason.
All around, top to bottom, Arizona.
I think
If you're
Arizona,
going to add free agency in that,
yes, out of everything altogether.
Because their
I
free
like the
agency,
Rams, too.
there wasn't a lot, but it wasn't that bad. But they could get 3 starters out of this free agency between Jonah Williams, Murphy
Correct.
Bunting, and Bilal Nichols. And I liked, again, like I'm looking at angles, like what units are you going to make better? And they made the most units better, in my opinion. The Rams angle, it's like we want to protect our quarterback. That's a
Yeah.
good angle. They gave a lot of money to guards, though.
Yeah.
They set the market for guards. So
they
it's
did
tough.
that. And you know what? They lost Aaron Donald, but they brought key pieces in to try to reload on that. So I was happy with that, big time.
So Arizona 1, LA 2. Now we got to decide who's at the bottom.
San Francisco 3.
San
for me.
Francisco's at the bottom.
No, for me it's 3. For
Really?
me it's 3, yeah.
So you think Seattle had the worst offseason? You think
Because
San Francisco
even
I
still-
just think San Francisco lost a shit ton.
and that's
besides Seattle.
and that's fair. And Seattle lost a lot too, but also I think a
And
lot
I
of
still
the
think that
replacements are
San
in-house.
Francisco's going to lose more. They lose one of their big receivers. That'll put the dirt right on the coffin.
I don't think Ayuk is there by the end of training camp.
Okay.
Gun to my head.
Does that change at all for you?
No, it doesn't. No, I still think Seattle had the worst off.
I think IU gone. It's a
Seattle's offseason lies in the
wrap.
coaching, and they still haven't addressed quarterback, in my opinion. They still haven't.
Listen,
touched
I
quarterback.
love Sam Howell. I think Sam Howell's going to have a big year. I think he's going to jump Geno Smith.
You're banking on a lot though in a division that you almost won 2 years ago. That's a lot of investment that you're putting into it.
This is true. That wraps up the NFC West. It will be back on. Actually, hold on. We won't be back on Wednesday with the NFC, whatever the fuck. Wednesday, we are going to go live at 8 p.m. rather than 5. We are going to do our schedule release spectacular. You guys can tune in here as the schedule gets released on Wednesday at 8 p.m. And we are going to go through all of the primetime matchups, all of our Detroit Lions matchups, Week 1 big games, all of it. We will be here with you guys live at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. So make sure to tune in for that. You don't need to watch NFL Network. Just come here. We're going to be way better than they are anyways. Before we end today, do you have anything to add?
no, sir.
Do you have anything to add? Do you have anything to fucking add?
Go Cardinals.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Tip Balls Podcast. Make sure to follow our socials, Instagram and Twitter at Tip Balls, TikTok at Tip Balls Podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can listen to us on Apple Music and or Spotify. And if you are watching us on YouTube already, make sure you click subscribe and ring that bell so you get notified when we go live. Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, sometimes around 5:15. But we could have an interview, which means we won't be live, but it'll still be out at 5, except Wednesday, because we're going to go live at 8 instead of 5, because it's the schedule release spectacular. Thank you so much for listening. We will see you on Wednesday.